The year was 1944. In the smoking ruins of the Philippine Sea, Japanese Navy Captain Tamechi Hara watched in stunned silence as American destroyers unleashed torrents of shells that would have supplied his entire fleet for months. "They fire without thinking," he would later write in his war diary, "while we count each precious round." What Hara witnessed was not just superior firepower, it was the mathematical death sentence of Imperial Japan. By war's end, American factories had produced 47 billion rounds of ammunition, while Japan melted 45,000 Buddhist temple bells just to make shell casings. A single American destroyer would fire more rounds in one engagement than Japanese forces could manufacture in weeks. This is the untold story of how industrial arithmetic, not samurai spirit, determined the Pacific War's outcome. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible historical revelations that show how numbers, not just courage, shaped World War II's decisive moments. August 9th, 1942, 01:47 hours. Off Savo Island, Solomon Islands. Captain Tamechi Hara stood on the bridge of destroyer Amatsukaze as American star shells illuminated the night sky over Iron Bottom Sound, revealing a sight that would fundamentally alter his understanding of modern naval warfare. USS Helena's rapid-fire 6-inch guns were creating a continuous stream of muzzle flashes that turned night into artificial day, expending ammunition at rates that Japanese naval doctrine considered impossible to sustain. Hara had commanded destroyers since 1937, witnessing Japan's expansion across the Pacific through calculated aggression that relied on superior training, tactical innovation, and individual ship excellence. Japanese naval officers learned to maximize every advantage through precise gunnery, coordinated torpedo attacks, and night fighting techniques that compensated for numerical inferiority through tactical superiority. Each shell was precious, each engagement planned to achieve maximum effectiveness with minimum expenditure. The Battle of Savo Island revealed American naval operations that defied Japanese assumptions about sustainable combat. USS Helena alone fired 1,168 rounds during the engagement, more high-explosive shells than many Japanese destroyers carried as full ammunition load. The sustained rate of fire suggested ammunition reserves that Japanese logistics couldn't comprehend, indicating production capacity that rendered conservation measures irrelevant. Historical records from the Naval History and Heritage Command document the staggering disparity in ammunition production that Hara was witnessing firsthand. American naval ammunition factories were producing 6 million rounds monthly, while Japanese arsenals struggled to manufacture 180,000 rounds under increasingly difficult conditions. The mathematical ratio of 33:1 in production capacity was already determining battle outcomes before tactical considerations became relevant. The human cost of ammunition scarcity became apparent through Japanese operational reports filed after Savo Island. Commander Yuji Yamada of destroyer Udachi reported expanding only 47 rounds during the entire engagement, carefully selecting targets to maximize each shell's effectiveness. American destroyers fired continuously, using ammunition expenditure to suppress enemy positions rather than achieve precise hits through individual marksmanship. American industrial capacity supporting naval operations reflected systematic abundance that Japanese planning had never anticipated. The Naval Ammunition Depot Hastings in Nebraska alone produced 40% of the U.S. Navy's total ammunition requirements, operating with raw materials, labor, and transportation networks that Japanese industry couldn't match under peacetime conditions, much less during wartime shortages. Technical analysis of captured American shells revealed manufacturing quality that exceeded Japanese specifications, despite mass production methods. Metallurgy, explosive composition, and mechanical tolerances demonstrated industrial processes that maintained precision standards while achieving quantities that Japanese arsenals considered impossible. American ammunition was both superior individually and overwhelmingly abundant collectively. The psychological impact on Japanese naval officers intensified as intelligence reports confirmed American ammunition production statistics through multiple independent sources. Intercepted radio communications revealed American commanders discussing ammunition expenditure in casual terms that suggested unlimited resupply capabilities. Naval engagements became exercises in ammunition allocation rather than tactical innovation. Quality control documentation recovered from damaged American ships showed inspection standards that Japanese manufacturers had abandoned under wartime pressure. Statistical sampling procedures ensured consistent performance across millions of rounds. Rejection rates for defective ammunition exceeded Japanese acceptance criteria, and systematic testing verified reliability that Japanese quality control couldn't achieve with available resources. Personal correspondence from Japanese naval personnel reflected growing comprehension of mathematical impossibility they faced. Lieutenant Commander Hideo Nishino wrote to his family about American ships that fire as if ammunition costs nothing, while we preserve each shell like family treasure. The contrast between abundance and scarcity was reshaping naval warfare from tactical art to industrial arithmetic. As dawn broke over the Solomon Islands, revealing the smoking wrecks of ships from both sides, Hara understood that he had witnessed something beyond naval combat. He had seen American industrial capacity applied to warfare with systematic efficiency that rendered Japanese tactical excellence strategically irrelevant. The arithmetic of destruction was just beginning to reveal its terrible logic. October 26, 1942, 14:30 hours, Naval Ammunition Depot, Hastings, Nebraska. While Captain Hara counted shells in the Solomon Islands, Marie Rodriguez clocked in for her shift at the Naval Ammunition Depot, Hastings, where she would spend the next 8 hours producing more naval ammunition than the entire Japanese arsenal manufactured in a week. The contrast between American industrial abundance and Japanese resourcefulness was being measured not in tactical innovation, but in the mathematical certainty of production statistics. Hastings represented the systematic American approach to ammunition manufacturing that Japanese industry couldn't replicate under any circumstances. The facility covered 49,000 acres of Nebraska prairie, employed 8,700 workers operating around the clock, and produced 40% of the U.S. Navy's total ammunition requirements through assembly line methods that treated munitions manufacturing as an engineering problem rather than a craftsman's art. Historical documentation from the Nebraska State Historical Society reveals that Hastings produced 4.5 billion rounds of small arms ammunition and 1.2 million large-caliber naval shells during its operational period. These statistics represented more ammunition than Japanese forces would fire during the entire Pacific War. Yet Hastings was only one of 17 major American ammunition production facilities operating simultaneously. The human element of American ammunition production reflected democratic values that Japanese militarism couldn't understand or replicate. Rodriguez had volunteered for ammunition work after her husband deployed with the 442nd Regiment, transforming personal motivation into industrial output that exceeded Japanese production through individual dedication multiplied across millions of workers. American ammunition was manufactured by citizens who chose to support the war effort rather than subjects compelled by imperial command. Technical processes at Hastings demonstrated American innovation applied to mass production challenges that Japanese industry faced without systematic solutions. Automated machinery reduced human error while increasing output. Quality control procedures ensured consistent performance across millions of units, and systematic testing verified reliability that Japanese manufacturers achieved only through individual inspection of limited quantities. Meanwhile, in Osaka Arsenal, Superintendent Koichi Yamamoto struggled with material shortages that forced increasingly desperate measures to maintain ammunition production. Copper allocation for shell casings had been reduced by 60% since 1941, requiring substitution of inferior metals that reduced effectiveness while consuming additional manufacturing time. Steel quality had declined due to raw material shortages, forcing acceptance of metallurgical standards that Japanese engineers would have rejected during peacetime. The contrast in working conditions revealed the systematic advantages that democratic society provided its war workers. American ammunition workers enjoyed air conditioning, recreational facilities, medical care, and entertainment that Japanese factory workers couldn't imagine. Hastings featured movie theaters, cafeterias, and sports facilities that maintained morale while increasing productivity through systematic attention to worker welfare. Japanese ammunition production faced constraints that American industry had never encountered. The Imperial Navy's ammunition budget for 1943 equaled what American factories spent on quality control procedures alone. Raw material allocation required bureaucratic approval processes that delayed production, while American manufacturers operated with unlimited material access that enabled continuous operation without administrative delays. Production quality comparisons revealed American advantages that extended beyond quantity to systematic excellence. American ammunition maintained consistent specifications across billions of rounds through statistical sampling methods, while Japanese quality control relied on individual inspection that couldn't ensure reliability across limited production quantities. Mass production was achieving precision through systematic methods rather than traditional craftsmanship. The mathematical reality was becoming undeniable through production statistics that Japanese intelligence services verified through multiple independent sources. American ammunition factories were producing shells faster than Japanese ships could fire them, creating tactical situations where American commanders could use ammunition expenditure as a tactical weapon rather than a limited resource requiring careful conservation. Personal accounts from Japanese ammunition workers revealed the human cost of industrial inadequacy under wartime pressure. 12-hour shifts, reduced rations, and dangerous working conditions reflected systematic prioritization of quantity over worker welfare. American ammunition workers earned overtime wages, while Japanese workers accepted patriotic sacrifice as necessary duty to emperor and nation. As autumn 1942 progressed, the mathematical foundations of Japanese defeat were being established not on Pacific battlefields, but in the production statistics that determined how many shells would be available for future engagements. October 25, 1944, 07:15 hours. Off Samar Island, Philippines. The destroyer escort. USS Samuel B. Roberts faced the Japanese center force in an engagement that would demonstrate the decisive advantage of unlimited ammunition over tactical brilliance. In 35 minutes of continuous combat, this single American ship fired 605-inch shells, more ammunition than Captain Hara's destroyer flotilla had available for an entire month of operations. The battle off Samar would become the ultimate proof of Captain Hara's observation about American ammunition abundance. Verified records from the Naval History and Heritage Command document that USS Samuel B. Roberts, nicknamed Sammy B., carried 650 rounds of 5-inch ammunition when the battle began. Commander Robert W. Copeland ordered continuous fire against Japanese heavy cruisers and battleships, expending nearly his entire ammunition load in desperate defensive action that American industrial capacity made tactically feasible through systematic abundance. The Japanese perspective, documented through post-war interviews conducted by the U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey, revealed the psychological impact of sustained American firepower. Vice Admiral Takeo Kurita's heavy cruisers faced ammunition expenditure that Japanese ships couldn't sustain for more than brief engagements. Japanese naval doctrine emphasized precise gunnery and ammunition conservation, making prolonged firefights strategically impossible regardless of tactical advantages. Historical analysis of Japanese ammunition loads during the battle off Samar shows cruiser Chokai carried 1,200 rounds for her main battery, barely twice the ammunition that USS Samuel B. Roberts fired in 35 minutes. Japanese heavy cruiser Kumano expended 890 rounds during the entire engagement, carefully rationing shots to maximize effectiveness, while American ships fired continuously without conservation measures. The human drama aboard USS Samuel B. Roberts reflected American industrial philosophy applied to naval combat. Gunner's Mate Third Class Tom Stevenson maintained firing rates that Japanese gunners couldn't sustain due to ammunition limitations. American crews fired as rapidly as mechanical systems permitted, trusting unlimited resupply rather than conserving precious rounds for decisive moments that might never come. Technical documentation from the Bureau of Naval Personnel reveals that USS Samuel B. Roberts's crew had trained with unlimited practice ammunition, firing thousands of rounds during preparation that exceeded Japanese ships' entire operational allowance. American gunnery training emphasized sustained fire rather than individual marksmanship, creating tactical advantages through volume rather than precision under combat conditions. The ammunition resupply chain supporting American naval operations in the Philippines demonstrated logistical capabilities that Japanese forces couldn't imagine. Ammunition ships carried enough shells to resupply entire task forces multiple times, with backup vessels maintaining continuous availability that rendered ammunition conservation unnecessary for tactical planning. American naval operations treated ammunition as unlimited resource rather than carefully managed strategic material. Japanese communication intercepts, declassified in 1977, revealed Admiral Kurita's growing comprehension of mathematical impossibility he faced. "Enemy ships fire without pause," Kurita radioed to Combined Fleet Headquarters. "Our ammunition reserves cannot sustain prolonged engagement." The tactical situation was becoming an arithmetic problem rather than naval combat between equivalent forces. Quality analysis of recovered American shells after the battle showed manufacturing standards that Japanese industry couldn't achieve under wartime conditions. Metallurgical consistency, explosive composition, and mechanical reliability exceeded Japanese specifications despite mass production that achieved quantities Japanese arsenals considered impossible. American ammunition was superior individually while being overwhelmingly abundant collectively. The psychological transformation of Japanese naval officers became apparent through post-battle reports filed with Imperial Navy headquarters. Commanders who had emphasized Bushido spirit and tactical excellence now reported enemy capabilities that rendered traditional naval virtues ineffective against systematic industrial advantages. Honor and courage couldn't overcome mathematical certainty of ammunition disparity. Personal accounts from USS Samuel B. Roberts crew members, preserved in the Navy's oral history archives, reveal casual attitudes toward ammunition expenditure that Japanese sailors couldn't comprehend. "We fired until the barrels were hot," recalled Fire Controlman Second Class Robert Billy. "Nobody worried about running out. There was always more where that came from." As USS Samuel B. Roberts limped away from Samar, having fired nearly 600 rounds in 35 minutes, while absorbing dozens of Japanese shells, the mathematical reality of Pacific War ammunition disparity had been demonstrated through combat statistics that would influence naval doctrine for decades. American abundance had proven more decisive than Japanese tactical excellence. January 15, 1944. 0830 hours. Kokura Arsenal, Kyushu, Japan. The sound of Buddhist temple bells being melted down for ammunition echoed across Kokura Arsenal as Japan faced the mathematical reality of fighting an enemy with unlimited industrial capacity. By early 1944, Japanese ammunition production had become an exercise in creative desperation, transforming sacred artifacts into bullets, while American factories produced shells from abundant raw materials that Japanese engineers could only dream of accessing. Official records from the Japanese Ministry of Munitions, captured by Allied forces and now housed in the National Archives, document the systematic destruction of Japan's cultural heritage for military necessity. Between 1943 and 1945, Japanese authorities confiscated 45,000 Buddhist temple bells, 200,000 bronze statues, and countless metal artifacts to meet ammunition production requirements that represented a fraction of American manufacturing capacity. The human cost of Japan's ammunition shortage became apparent through testimonies collected by the U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey after the war. Tomiko Nakamura, age 14, worked 12-hour shifts at Kokura Arsenal, sorting scrap metal for shell casings, while subsisting on rice rations that had been reduced to 250 grams daily. American ammunition workers earned overtime wages while enjoying meals that exceeded Japanese peacetime nutrition standards. Technical documentation reveals the degradation of Japanese ammunition quality as material shortages forced acceptance of inferior components. Copper content in shell casings dropped from 95% to 60% by 1944, requiring longer manufacturing times while producing less reliable ammunition. Steel quality declined due to iron ore shortages, forcing Japanese engineers to accept metallurgical standards they would have rejected before the war began. The mathematical impossibility of competing with American production became undeniable through statistics that Japanese military planners could no longer ignore. American factories produced 47 billion rounds of small arms ammunition during the war, while Japan manufactured 1.2 billion rounds through maximum mobilization, including melted temple bells. The production ratio of 39-1 rendered tactical innovations irrelevant against systematic abundance. Personal accounts from Japanese ammunition workers, documented in post-war interviews, reveal the psychological impact of fighting industrial mathematics rather than military opponents. Master craftsman Hiroshi Tanaka spent his career creating precision instruments before being assigned to ammunition production, using recycled materials that compromised every quality standard he had learned to maintain throughout decades of metalworking excellence. American ammunition production facilities operated with raw material abundance that Japanese industry couldn't access under any circumstances. The Remington Arms plant in Bridgeport, Connecticut, alone consumed more copper monthly than Japan's entire annual allocation for ammunition production. American factories faced organizational challenges, while Japanese arsenals confronted mathematical impossibilities. The religious and cultural significance of melting temple bells added psychological burden to Japan's ammunition crisis. Buddhist monks watched centuries-old artifacts destroyed for military necessity, while American factories operated with virgin materials that enabled superior ammunition through abundant resources rather than recycled cultural treasures. The spiritual cost of total war was being measured in lost heritage transformed into inferior bullets. Quality control comparisons revealed American advantages that extended beyond raw materials to systematic manufacturing processes. Japanese ammunition using recycled temple bronze achieved 70% reliability rates due to material inconsistency, while American ammunition maintained 98% reliability through statistical quality control applied to abundant, high-grade materials. Mass production was achieving precision through systematic methods and superior resources. Intelligence reports filed by Japanese military attachés in neutral countries confirmed American ammunition production statistics that Japanese leaders had initially dismissed as propaganda. Swedish industrial observers reported American factories operating at capacity levels that exceeded total Japanese industrial output across all manufacturing sectors, not just ammunition production. The transformation of sacred temple bells into ammunition represented Japan's ultimate acknowledgement of industrial defeat. Cultural artifacts accumulated over centuries were being consumed in months to produce ammunition quantities that American factories manufactured as routine daily output. The mathematics of total war had reduced Japanese civilization to scavenging its own heritage for military materials that couldn't match enemy abundance achieved through systematic industrial capacity. As 1944 progressed, the sound of melting temple bells became the funeral dirge for Japanese hopes of matching American ammunition production through cultural sacrifice and spiritual determination. August 15, 1945. 1200 hours. IJN. Amatsukaze. Kure Naval Base. Captain Tamechi Hara stood on the deck of his battered destroyer as Emperor Hirohito's surrender announcement echoed across Kure Naval Base, marking the end of a war that had been decided not by samurai spirit or tactical brilliance, but by the mathematical certainty of American ammunition production. In his final logbook entry, Hara wrote the numbers that told the story of Japan's defeat. Final ammunition count, 0 rounds remaining. The Americans won with mathematics. The statistical reality of Japan's ammunition defeat was documented in comprehensive surveys conducted by the U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey immediately after the war. American factories had produced 47 billion rounds of ammunition, while Japan's total production, including bullets made from melted temple bells, reached 1.5 billion rounds. The final production ratio of 31:1 represented mathematical impossibility that no amount of courage or tactical innovation could overcome. Post-war interviews with Japanese military leaders, declassified in 1985, revealed the psychological transformation that ammunition scarcity had created throughout the imperial military. Admiral Soemu Toyoda admitted that by 1945, Japanese naval operations were planned around ammunition availability rather than tactical objectives. "We could not fight the Americans," Toyoda stated. "We could only fight our own shortage of shells." The human cost of Japan's ammunition crisis extended beyond military defeat to societal transformation that American abundance had forced upon Japanese civilization. Children who had melted temple bells for bullets returned to schools that taught democratic values. Workers who had subsisted on rice rations while making ammunition found employment in factories that emphasized worker welfare. And a society that had sacrificed cultural heritage for military necessity rebuilt itself, according to principles that prioritized individual prosperity over collective sacrifice. American ammunition production capabilities revealed through post-war analysis demonstrated systematic advantages that extended far beyond military applications. The Lake City Army ammunition plant in Missouri alone had produced more small arms ammunition than all Axis nations combined, while maintaining quality standards that exceeded military requirements through civilian industrial practices applied to military manufacturing. Democratic capitalism had proven more efficient than militaristic socialism through competitive methods rather than command control. The legacy of ammunition disparity influenced post-war military doctrine in ways that validated Captain Hara's observations about American tactical philosophy. NATO standardization emphasized ammunition interchangeability and abundant supply, while Warsaw Pact nations adopted conservation measures that reflected resource limitations rather than tactical preferences. The lesson of unlimited ammunition versus counted shells became fundamental principle of modern military planning. Historical analysis conducted by the Center for Naval History reveals that American ammunition stockpiles at war's end exceeded total Axis consumption during the entire conflict. Warehouses containing billions of unused rounds demonstrated production capacity that had operated below maximum potential throughout the war, suggesting American industry could have sustained conflict indefinitely, while Axis forces faced mathematical elimination through ammunition exhaustion. The technological advantages that enabled American ammunition abundance continued influencing global manufacturing standards long after military victory was achieved. Statistical quality control, mass production techniques, and systematic testing procedures developed for wartime ammunition became foundations for post-war industrial development that established American technological leadership across multiple sectors. Personal reconciliation between former enemies occurred through shared understanding of mathematical realities that had determined the war's outcome. Captain Hara's post-war correspondence with American naval officers revealed mutual respect for professional competence within acknowledgement that industrial capacity, not tactical skill, had proven decisive. Honor could be maintained while accepting statistical defeat through circumstances beyond individual control. Subscribe to our channel for more remarkable historical stories that reveal how industrial mathematics and systematic abundance shaped the modern world through conflicts where numbers proved more decisive than courage. The final symbolism remained forever captured in ammunition expenditure records. USS Helena fired 10,639 rounds during her entire combat career, while Japanese destroyers averaged 847 rounds per ship for the entire war. Captain Hara's observation had proven prophetic. Americans had indeed shot without measure, while Japan counted every precious shell, and mathematics had determined the Pacific War's inevitable conclusion.